Good day everyone, I am Darlene Carmela Gacos Altanal, and today I am delighted to share to you my topic about the Cone of Learning by Edgar Dale. So first off, teaching and learning must be supported by instructional materials or the IMS. So to ensure the individual differences when teaching methodologies and learning styles, different support materials should be varied. It is important that materials should complement visual, auditory, and tactile, or even the combination of the three. So it is really important to consider that in a diversity of class, a variety of materials should be varied depending upon the learner's learning styles. To ensure that the teaching and learning must be achieved effectively. Now let's head on to the Cone of Learning of Edgar Dale. So this is the Cone of Learning of Edgar Dale, which he stated how an individual acquire an information or knowledge. So to deepen this, let me share to you some of the knowledge that I gathered. So first, we have what we say and do. So, the use of direct purpose experience through learning by doing retains almost all the learning outcomes. By 90% of learning is retained. For example, we have the field trip, field study, community immersion, and the practice teaching. So in experience, there is a higher chance that we'll be able to remember it clearly because it will be planted in our brain, and in our hands we'll remember how it feels to experience something or doing an activity during a field trip. Now second is what we say. Participation in class activities, discussion, reporting, and similar activities where learners have the opportunity to talk and write, 70% of the learning is remembered. So the second one is the participation, which surrounds from the what we say, is that interaction gives us brief experience where we can communicate to our peers and share our ideas. So if we are asked, we'll be like, yes, I remembered Miss Shane told me that H2O is water during our discussion. So it gives us 70% of the learning. So the learners will remember it 70% if they're actively participating in a group discussion. Third, we have the what we see and hear, the combination of seeing and hearing. So passive participation, as in watching movies, viewing exhibits, watching demonstration, will retain around 50% of what has been communicated. A combination will help the learners remember it by reminiscing what they see or hear. So they'll be like, I saw it in the movie, or I heard it in the radio saying things like this and that. So it will give around 50% of what has been communicated in a knowledge. So number 4 is what we see. So by just looking at still pictures, paintings, illustrations, and drawing will allow the retention of around 30% of the material's content. So seeing will only give 30%, especially when you are not a visual learner. Number 5, we have what we hear. By hearing, as in lecture, sermon, monologues, only gain 21% is remembered. So same as seeing, if there is no other displayed activity, things will get boring. Learners will get distracted by daydreaming, getting sleepy, or maybe has zero interest. So number 6, we have what we read. Reading will ensure 10% of remembering the materials. Well, actually, reading is fun, but not for everyone, especially when it's not an entertaining genre. When you read a whole material alone, you'll barely understand things, especially when it has no other pictures or music to remember, only words. So it will only gain 10% of the stored knowledge. So that was the 6th definition of cone of learning according to Edgar Dale. Now let's proceed to the second one. We have the methods and materials must implement the plan, taking action. So we have the example, the lesson plan in science. We have here the lesson plan in science. So in writing a lesson plan, you need to identify first your objectives or the intended learning outcomes. So first we have tell that force is applied to move objects. Second, describe that pushing or pulling with a force moves object. Third, we have that state that if force moves the object away from the person, it is a push. And then lastly, it states that if the force moves the object towards the person, then it is a pull. So second, in creating a lesson plan, we have the subject matter. Under the subject matter, we have the topic, references, concept, process, and the materials. So first, our topic is pushing or pulling moves object. Our reference is from Bilbao P 2020 Exploring Science with Fun in APA format. So science concept, we have object moves when force is applied to it. A push is a force that moves object away. Then a pull is a force that moves the object near. So we have the science process, observing, inferring, making operational definition, and our materials to be used are real objects like chairs, tables, books, stones, big boxes, and the pictures. So third, in creating a lesson plan, we have the procedure. So procedure, we have the post-laboratory activity. So we have the post-laboratory activity. Number 1, we have after the report, display the work in front of the classroom. Make an agreement on the results that leads to conceptualization. So we have the conceptualization. Throw the following questions to the class to elicit their formed concept. A. What is needed to move the object from one place to another? Force is needed to move the object. B. How will you move with force if you want the object to go far from you? Push it's the object away, so that's the answer. C. We have how will you move with a force if you want the object to move near you? So the answer is pull the object near you. And sixth, we have the application. Application is that do you have enough force to push the wall? Try it. Do you have enough force to pull a box? Then try it. Do you have enough force to push a chair? Then try it. And then we have the fourth one. Fourth one, it consists with assessment of learning outcomes. So the assessment of learning outcomes is how a teacher assess its students if they had learned something. So the example here is circle the letter of the correct answer. First, we have if you throw a ball to a classmate, what force will you apply? So as a teacher, you have to assess your students by giving them some assessment like this and allow them to answer the question. So number 2, we have you want the chair to be nearer you so your best friend can sit. What will you do? A. Pull the chair. B. Push the chair. C. Carry the chair. And the assessment will continue to however the teacher likes or how many she wants to give the students some assessment. So number 5, we have the assignment. So at home, list 4 objects that you can push or pull. What did you use to push or pull the objects? So the assignment will serve as the assessment of the learners to be answered in their homes. In this way, this will help them remember what they have taught in the classroom for that day because they are given some assessment or some assignment to be answered in their homes. So lastly, we have finding out what has been achieved, assessing achieved outcomes. So at the end of the activity, the teacher will find out if the intended learning outcomes, ILO, have been converted into achieved learning outcomes or the ALO. What knowledge, process, understanding, and performance are demonstrated by the learners. So the rules of thumb is what has been taught should be measured to find out if the intended outcomes set at the beginning has been achieved. And every end of the activity, the teacher will be able to know if the students have acquired the knowledge or the students have learned something from the teacher has given. The learning outcomes of the students will also identify what knowledge that the learners had been acquired or what things that they need to improve before going to another topic. So this lesson plan will serve as the guides for the teacher in order to teach properly, to achieve the intended learning outcomes, and to deliver the knowledge that every student deserves. So that will be all. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have learned something from me.